Yeah. Okay, here we are, finishing off the Maimer, the Veyodata. Very, very exciting. So, last week we were trying to answer the original question of the Maimer was, why does the pasuk of the Veyodata Hayoim Vashavaysa Vacha come after speaking about Yitzias Mitzrayim and Knisas Haaretz, leaving Mitzrayim and going into Eretz Yisrael. Then he says this pasuk of the Veyodata, and his first question was like, what's the order? Then he said to understand that, we first have to understand how Havaya and Elokim are all one. So that first question he's starting to answer in this second half of the Maimer, that the souls that went down to Mitzrayim were the same souls of the Dar HaFlaga. Haflaga means to make a division. They were separating between Havaya and Elokim. They were saying that, yeah, God created the world, and then he basically left it in the hands of all the Elokim stuff, like all the solar system and all the other tools that make the world turn round. And they're running the world. They separated between Havaya and Elokim. The nature is actually its own force. It's not a direct connection with Havaya. Yeah, so the Dar HaFlaga separated. They made a separation between Havaya and Elokim. And then he goes into a whole explanation of what that looks like. When we start to give credit to tools as opposed to like the person that is actually the works, the worker, whatever. The worker behind the tools.
Yeah.
So.
Is this too heavy?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. We're getting comfortable over here. I'm not gonna pause again. Moment of silence.
Our house is covered in weighted blinds.
I love it. I want to get one for myself.
Someone asked me, why do I have them?
Yeah.
What?
Why did you get that?
Someone said, is it so you don't, because you don't want the kids to get up? It's your fault. She's like,
That's
oh, you don't want the kids to get up?
That's funny.
No, hello. She works in what's it called? In like the government funded preschool. She works in Head Start. I'm like, you don't know what's these sensory, it's like good for sensory kids. OT, all that stuff.
I know, but
You've never heard of it.
Right, because it's a new thing.
Doing great here. Okay, so the Dar HaFlaga separated between Havaya and Elokim. And he explains what it means then he goes on to explain what it looks like when they work together, which is what the whole Maimer we were talking about, that Elokim is not blocking Havaya. Havaya is actually, everything is Havaya. Elokim is only the filter to make it accessible, but you would never give credit to Elokim as being anything. That would be similar to saying, wow, that hammer built a stunning house, when obviously the hammer is useless without a builder, someone behind it. And the same thing is with Elokim. Elokim is not an energy of its own. It's all Havaya coming through Elokim. It's a tool. And that's when we keep it together. So then we don't rely on all our businesses. We don't get caught up in all the rules of nature and say, oh, if I dedicate more time to my work and more brain space, then I'll be more successful, because we don't know they're just mediums. Is that a word? Mediators. Mediums. They're all mediums. Yeah, they're just ways that the energy and the like it's channeled through, but they're not the ones producing any of it. So that's when Havaya and Elokim aren't separated. And then starting today, we're going to say, but when you separate them, so when you think that Elokim actually is covering over on Havaya, it's a real concealment. The concealment is real. Then you start to look at all the mediums as the main thing here. So then you start to say, hey, the sun is actually what's making my crop grow, and the rain is actually what makes us, and they're what's important. So I'm, or modern day, it's my business is actually what's giving me money, and so I want to invest more of my self into it and really worship it so that it gives me back.
If we saw the Havaya and everything around us, we wouldn't be attached to anything.
Right.
We would have no attachments. If we're back in
Right.
Torah. Today.
The title of the book.
We would use the tools, but without serving, without worshiping the tool. Of course we would use the tools. We need to use our business to channel money to us.
If it
Yeah.
was taken away, we would say,
We would
have
understand
to let it go.
this is a tool. It's like him. I have to use it. I'm not like disconnecting from the world. I'm super involved with it. But as a tool, I'm not going to run around and say, I love my hammer. It builds great stuff. No, it doesn't.
I love for what it gives me right now. But if it disappeared tomorrow, we wouldn't cry. You know what I'm saying? Like it wouldn't be an attachment
Right.
to us in a way that
Right.
we can't live with.
Well, not that I love what it gives me. This is a great tool that I have. If it went away, I'll have to pick up another one. Because the energy is going to come to me anyhow. By this tool or that tool.
Exactly. That's what it says in It's Not Your Money. The book It's Not Your Money.
Yeah, oh, that's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Because
Like
remember
you
what we
have-
were talking about today in our book? About
Yeah.
no attachment to this
Yeah,
person?
yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's the same thing, I guess, seeing the Havaya in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's true.
No secrets. So let's focus over here for a minute.
Okay.
It's really short. We're almost done. So separating the two, Havaya and Kim is mamash avodah zarah. That's what it is. And this is what the Razal say, that the Jews in Chutz La'aretz, they do idol worship, avodah zarah, batara, in a pure way they do avodah zarah. So what does it mean, batara? It says because the Jews in Chutz La'aretz, they somehow dedicate their life to business and stuff, and they kind of bend. What's avodah zarah? When you bow to something that other than God, you're surrendering to something other than God. And the Jews in Eretz Yisrael, in Chutz La'aretz, they're mevatel. They surrender their mind and their head to their business. They actually use their head, and so they're considering their business tools as if it's actually gonna help if they invest a lot more brain space into it. And so there is a little bit of avodah zarah going on over there, but it's batara. It explains why. And I have to look inside again. I'm a little bit lost over here. Yeah, and they forget that it's actually Hashem that's giving you Hashem Yisbarach Asher Hu Anoisten Loi Koyach L'Atzisrael. The Eibishter really gives you koyach and gives you everything. You don't have to bend your brain and really invest it into all these other tools like that you do surfacely with your hands. Yes, you need to go and design. You may even need to use your brain in your work, but you're not using it in this way of this is what's going to get me my parnasa. No, my brain requires it's math. I have to use my head. Of course, you're going to use your head and be I can only do this with my hands. It's okay to use your brain. Let's not get confused there, but we're not investing ourselves into the business that this is where it's at, and if I don't use my whole head, it's not going to be successful. No, it comes from Havaya. The business is just a tool. So that's why they say about the Yidden in Chutz La'aretz that they are doing it, but it's batara. Why is it batara? It's still in a pure way. It's not so. It's not mamash avodah zarah. And he explains because in Chutz La'aretz, the light comes down in a very, very coarse garment. It's like in Eretz Yisrael, the aura comes down, it's more visible. Here it's mamash dark. It's really, really dark, so we can say because it's so dark, it's very hard to see the Havaya. So that's why they consider the tools to be greater than they really are. All because of this really thick concealment that we experience here in Chutz La'aretz. Yeah. Yeah. However, it's still our obligation to actually feel that no, the tools in our business aren't really blocking. It's not, even though it's such a big block, it's really not a block because Elohim doesn't block Havaya. Okay. So all this happens when he is bowing his head to this, the Kachavim Mazalis, to all this other stuff that seemed to be giving him chayas. And he thinks that they really are what gives him his life support, that that's not Havaya. Havaya, kind of left this world in the hands of all the other resources, the natural resources. So this is all B'tar. Yeah, okay. But if a person unifies Havaya and Elokim, and he knows the truth that Elokim never covers over on Havaya, Adarabba, the whole point of Elokim is to actually bring Havaya to a lower place, like we spoke about for many, many hours. So therefore, he sees all the mediums as just tools. They're just axes in the hands of the woodchopper to bring this godly light to another place. And he doesn't consider them at all to be anything other than a tool. It's just a tool, so I don't give any credit to the tool. Yeah, and then when he's in that mindset, so then there's no distraction or no disturbance, and you show up to your work in a very calm and peaceful way, and you have time to learn, time to daven, time to do everything you need to do without, I'm late to work, okay, is work giving you your money? It's a tool. I guess there's always this balance of you got to use the tool properly still, so I don't know. Everyone figure it out on your own. Okay. I'm just giving what he says, and we'll figure out how to make it integrated into a reality in a real way.
Integrated it. We spoke about it last week already.
Yeah.
And I found that this week during work, I have two parts of my job. One part of it is when I work, I can bill for it, so I know I'm earning money. And the other part is more technicals, and I hate doing the technicals because I'm not getting paid for it. But this week, whenever I do the technicals, it's or nothing, or I decide I don't even want to work now, I just want to sit and enjoy. I internalized this whole thing that you said, because it's not about my business. It's I need to do what I need to do. And Hashem will send.
And so there was the calm? It felt right?
It felt right.
Amazing.
It felt
and the money came? We didn't know the end of the story. Money comes. Baruch Hashem. It's beautiful.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. Okay, so we're wrapping up the last paragraph over here. So, according to all this that we just said, it says by the Dor HaFlaga, this generation that's separated between Havaya and Elokim, it says V'nas lo Shem. They wanted to make a name, and the Razal say again that Shem means Avodah Zarah, and that was the sin of the Dor HaFlaga, that they separated Elokim from Havaya. And therefore they gave lots of credit to all the mediums, and they worshipped all the tools and thought that that's where the life is coming from. And during the Shibud Mitzrayim, when the Yidden were in Mitzrayim working with the same materials, they were working again with bricks. And that was the tikkun. The tikkun was to work with...
Oh, my sister?
To work... Okay, so in Mitzrayim, V'hinei, B'shibud Mitzrayim tikkun was a chet shel ha'aflaga, was the Indian shab, avdavad disparach b'chamer l'levenim, l'saknas a chet v'yihi lahem l'levenim l'leven. So in Mitzrayim, the Yidden worked with bricks, and they built all these bricks, and that's uses the same language as they did by Dor HaFlaga, that it says the levena, the straw, was for them as for stones, so that the same system in Mitzrayim, where they took all the straw and they made it into bricks. So through the Yidden being in exile in Mitzrayim and working, they suffer for a really long time. They were Masakin, I guess the Daraflaga, and because of that, they were able to now see Havaya. That's why after the Galus, on their way out, the laws of nature were completely thrown apart. You had all the makas, you had all this stuff that were supernatural. They were able to see Havaya. So they left Mitzrayim. There was all these miracles. There was Kriyas Yamsuf stuff. Like the Gilui of Havaya was for real. And I guess that's, again, bring it back to us. Like we can experience that too here now in our Galus as well. It's not just a nice story of the past. It's a current story. We are also in Mitzrayim, and we are being Masakin something. Like the chances are what we're carrying and the stuff that we have to fix isn't really ours, just like the Mitzrayim that was from generations earlier. And when we are Masakin, we will break this concealment and actually see how everything is really, really godliness. The concealment is not actually real. It's not its own energy. It's just tools. So if Elikim really concealed on Havaya, how would it be possible for there to be a splitting of the sea? How could nature break itself, and how could the laws be bent? If Elikim really covered over and was its own force, then the laws of nature would never bend. So it says in the Gemara, in Sanhedrin, that there was a heretic. It's funny because here he says Ahumina. I looked up the Gemara because I don't understand Gemara language. I needed an English translation. It uses a different word than Amina. I don't know. It seems like a misquote. But this heretic told Amemar, he said, from your waist and up is from the good God, and from your waist down is a bad God. What he meant was that it's two different forces. So he answered him, if so, how is it possible that the bad God lets the good God drink? What he meant is you drink from on top and then you urinate out the bottom. Like, why would they be working together? If they're two separate things, then this wouldn't work together. But this heretic meant to say that, from the higher part, Havaya is one thing, and Elikim is a completely separate entity. He was answering him that actually no. Elikim isn't its own entity. They all work together. And when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, so they actually saw how in the lower worlds there actually is a big revelation of godliness, and that Elikim is not blocking Havaya at all, and it's all one. Havaya and Elikim are all one. And the same thing, when they went into Eretz Yisrael, you got to see it in a much clearer way, because in Eretz Yisrael, the energy, the aura that's there comes from Yitzira. So you have Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya. The lowest world is Chutz La'aretz, but in Eretz Yisrael comes from Yitzira. It's a finer. The energy of Havaya is finer, the blockage is finer. It's not as coarse, so we're able to experience Havaya better. Yeah, and we also know that he says Eretz Yisrael comes from Eretz, it's from Lashon Ratzim. So how do you reach this experience of experiencing Havaya? It's through Ratzim. You do the Ratzim of Hashem. So Eretz Yisrael is not just a physical place, but it's also it's an intention, or it's a spiritual place. It's a place of being in God's will, in Ratzim Eliyah. So you're doing the Ratzim of Hashem, which is the Torah, and you're doing mitzvahs, and you dedicate your life to it. Then you're able to break through Elikim and reach Havaya. And it all becomes one. So that was the theme of the Maimer. Okay, we just finished it. That was it. So that's why we prefaced the Psukim. His question was, why does it first come this Psukim of leaving Mitzrayim and coming to Eretz Yisrael? Then you have Veyodata. No, understand that Havaya and Elikim are one. Like, how do you do that? So the process is going through Egypt. breaking out of it, seeing the miracles because you didn't serve the Avodah Zarah, you stuck to the truth. So you break out of Mitzrayim, then you experience Havaya and its oneness, and now you're going into Eretz Yisrael. So that's why after you leave Mitzrayim, you're going to Yisrael, then you experience how Havaya and Elokim are actually all one, and it's all working together. So you have Yetzias Mitzrayim. First the Nor Mitzrayim, it was Galus. Then they went into Eretz Yisrael. When they go into Eretz Yisrael, they're breaking out of the klipa. They're breaking through the concealment, and now they experience how Elokim, nature, and Havaya are actually all one. They're all working together, and that happens when they are in Eretz Yisrael. So first the Psukim say, leave Mitzrayim, go into Eretz Yisrael. Now you have Havaya and Elokim. It's all clear, working together in one picture. Yeah? Okay, so I thought I would actually run through the whole Maimer as like a little, just quickly go through that flow, but I also wanted to remind ourselves of there's a lot of powerful stuff that we came across, just these like one-liners that for me were very powerful, and we spoke about them and just wanted to remind them as we run through the Maimer. So we started with you ain't seen nothing. Okay, let's do this very quick. We'll get the whole flow in like a couple of minutes. So he starts off with the pasuk, Veyodata Mishnah of the day, return to your heart that Havaya and Elokim. The Havaya is Elokim. And then he asks, why do the psukim before this speak about Yetzias Mitzrayim and going into Eretz Yisrael? And then he says, to understand that, we first have to understand, well, what does it mean that Havaya is Elokim? And he goes into a whole arichas explaining how Havaya is unlimited flow and Elokim is this big blockage. How can we say they're one? And then he explains how they're one by telling us everything that we spoke about, how actually everything's Havaya, and Elokim is just a filter to bring the light to a lower place, but it's not, it all comes from the same source, they're not actually contradicting. And then he asked, but still, it seems to be like without Elokim, everything would just be one and there would be no separation. So it's obviously doing something, so how can you say that it's really part of it, but it also like conceals, like which one is it? And then he gave the whole example of Mishpia and Makabel, how a big mind needs to transfer information to a smaller mind, infinitely smaller. He has to like hide his whole message in shalom and hints and really conceals a lot of it, but the intention is not to actually hide, it's just actually to reveal. But if you just flooded the smaller mind with information, it would just be traumatic and it would cause more damage than good. So if Havaya wants to have a relationship or an experience with an outsider, it needs to hide itself. But it's not in order to hide, it's in order to reveal. So that's why they're all one.
I have such a good marshal for this.
Go.
You know how we all have our protectors to protect us from pain? It's like the LA Kim, because we felt everything at once all the time. We would just be flooded, like we can't.
Yeah.
Our bodies are gentle.
Yes, that's exactly one of those strong statements that he says that ain't etzem master aletzem. Like if your blockers are part of you, your protectors, they can't really be blocking you because they're all part of the same one system. So what's it doing? It's there to actually reveal to you that there's something going on, but it's kind of gentle. So it seems like the devil, but it's actually your key. It's the key.
Yeah.
Right, beautiful. So I love that line, ain't etzem master aletzem. That thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but that could get you very, very high. You know, like, oh, everything's in me, like, it's not there to block me. Like, it can't. Yeah, you can't cover yourself and say, I'm dressed now. Like, no, you need something outside of you. So if you're blocking you, it's not a real block. Period. And that's very, very, very powerful.
Wow.
Thank you, Mushki.
Wow, fine.
Yeah. Okay, so that explained how the Kim are one of them. It's everything we just spoke about. How this whole idea. Why did the Psukim come before? They're there to tell us. Actually, we were speaking about the Darhaflaga that's separated, and he explains in depth what that separation like looks like in real time. It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of like, wanting to take control of your life when you actually don't control any of it, and it's putting all your energy into tools and thinking that they're the ones that are gonna take care of you, and not understanding that no, Havaya runs the show. Elikim is just how we tap into it. So yes, we're gonna use our tools. We're gonna go to work because that's how you bring the energy to you. But we're never gonna say, my business gives me money, and so I have to invest my whole life into it and turn it into my new God. Because if you do that, then you're really limiting what it can give you, because your business actually has no life of its own. But when we recognize that no, the business is just a medium, it's a tool, so we use the tool properly because we want to get the best out of it, but like we're never going to give credit to it. Just like when someone builds a house, we don't give credit to the tools, we give credit to the builder. The same thing, and that leads us to leaving Mitzrayim, going into Eretz Yisrael, where all this connection comes to a full circle. There's also like one of those other things he said in here was about that the whole earth is just a mushal. And so all these things we talk about, it's the same exact, the mashal and the nimshal are the same. One is physical and one is spiritual. So it's everything you understand physically, like it's not different than the spiritual. It's exactly the same thing. Let that sink in somehow. What?
I have a question about the
Yeah.
struggle. Remember we used to talk about struggle?
Yeah.
Wasn't the whole beginning of like this?
That's when I came
Yeah.
in. Now it's
Oh, I'm
just
sorry. I
like-
totally missed that. He said we
Yeah,
have
the
to.
point of the
Oh, I
world
missed a
is
huge
struggle.
piece there. Yeah.
Like, doesn't that like where does that all come into?
I'm sorry. So after he explained about it, he said to really understand this, we have to understand why the soul comes down into the world. And he said it comes down here just to experience challenges. Like, how does that work? So he explained that on the other side of the challenge is the truth. So when you're in Gan Eden, the soul's there, it's very nice, it's getting as much as it can while it's up there. But to really get to like Havaya in its raw sense, you go through this world and through this process of a struggle, and you stick to it, to the truth. You stick like Avraham Avinu. He wasn't going to give anything away. He didn't know that nature wouldn't hurt him. By sticking to it, he remained in his physical being. The fire remained physical, but it lost its limitation of the laws of nature. So Havaya shining alone, this is what I'm understanding. If Havaya would just shine alone, so we wouldn't exist. It would just be oneness everywhere, it'd be great. That's a very nice level. But what's if we can actually be humans in our body and then experience Havaya, like while we're still not lost to it. It didn't burn us alive. Like we're actually experiencing it with our current state. So Avraham Avinu goes into the fire and it doesn't burn him. The laws of nature are completely bent, but he wasn't lost with it too. Like he remained him, the fire remained its fire. But you can see clearly that this is all just the oneness of Havaya. So that level isn't reached in Gan Eden, because in Gan Eden you're kind of batal to like the light. You're very insignificant. Here in this world, he remained himself, and yet he's experiencing a Havaya in its rawest form.
Wow.
And so that's the point of going through struggle. But the struggle is very real, and we don't know that we're not going to be killed in it. We don't know anything. We don't even know how hard it's going to be. Like, you keep going, you think you're getting through it, and all of a sudden, like, no, you still have to jump into a fire or get hit by a truck. You're like, really? Then how? I'll die. Like, yeah, you'll die. But are you committed to this? Are you committed to this journey? Like, Mesiras Nefesh, till the end. So then when that's accomplished, all of a sudden, it all just falls away like it was just a facade. It's fake. The truth is that it's Havaya, and Havaya isn't limited by the struggle that we experience. And that's a whole lot of fun. Yeah, there was that piece.
Beautiful.
I think, yeah, that sums it up.
Wow.
So, Mazel Tov.
Woo! Let's have a
I
siyum.
this
think
feels
that's
great. We did it, so that's
Huh?
great. And Mirza Hashem, next time we'll start with the Maimer of L'chadoidi.
Yeah.
L'chadoidi.
Ooh,
The
so-
wedding Maimer. The
So
wedding.
romantic, no?
Very romantic. The wedding between the Jewish people and God.
Yeah.
That's the nimshal. The mashal is husband and wife, and it's all the same. Just one's physical and one's spiritual.
Beautiful.
And-
Very exciting.
Let's see where that takes us.
Let's
Okay.
take it easy. It'll be interesting.
Cheers.
Yeah.